Following yesterday's 21-6 loss to the Commanders, Brian Daboll was immediately non-committal in who would be his starting quarterback for week 2. Food for thought, though, Russell Wilson wasn't great. 17 of 37, 168 yards. He fumbled the ball once. He was almost more effective with his legs, but that's not really saying much because he ran for 44 yards on 8 attempts. But here we go again. Week 2, Russ it is.
Do you intend to start Russell Wilson this week?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Was that ever?
I mean, and after a game, it's an emotional game. It's a tough game. Didn't play particularly well, I would say, collectively. But in terms of making any of those decisions, really at any position or schematic changes, I'd like to, do it with a clear head and watch the tape. And again, like I said yesterday, that game just doesn't fall on Russell Wilson.
Do it with a clear head, perhaps talk to ownership. Look, how do you think the Giants should be handling this quarterback situation moving forward?
Yeah, look, I think, Nicole, they're trying to take it slow. As Brian said, they're not trying to make any rash, quick decisions without really thinking this thing through. Because once you go to Jaxson Dart, you realize that then it's his show from that point on. So I think there's two things. As Brian Daboll said, you want to make sure that you're assessing this thing properly as far as how much is on Russell, how much is on the offense as a whole. And then you want to assess where you think Jaxson is relative to the fantastic performance he's had in the preseason. Now, for me, I think they're going to probably give him maybe 2 or 3 more games, that being Russell Wilson, and see if the offensive line can play better, if the running game can get going. Look, this team's already in the bottom quarter of the league in pass block win rate, something where they have struggled with, and they've been beat up on the offensive line. If he can't get it turned around, if he can't get the ball to Malik Neighbors, if he can't wind up creating those off-schedule plays and being the dynamic dual threat that Russ was at one point in time, that's exactly what they have in Jaxson Dart. He showed you that in the preseason. He showed you that at Ole Miss. And I think you're just trying to find the right time to say, we've wrung everything out of Russ that we possibly can. The offensive line has played as good as it can play. The receivers are as good as they're going to be at this point. Russ just isn't able to level up everyone else. Jaxson Dart, he brings a whole different dynamic. He maybe will infuse the offense with some energy, some more confidence. He can kind of mitigate some of the things that the offensive line can't bring to the table. He can run hurry up. They showed that in the preseason. And I think he will then take over from that point on. Expect it maybe around week 4 or 5.
I mean, no matter who the quarterback is, it's not getting any easier because up next, it's the Cowboys in Dallas.
Into the New York Giants for a second. Expect to see Jaxson Dart by week 3. Giants going to have a new quarterback after week 2. No disrespect, but Russell Wilson ain't the answer. And if Brian Daboll and Sean, the GM, want to keep their jobs, Jaxson Dart is going to be your quarterback by week 3. Because you lost week 1 and you ain't winning week 2 either. I'm just telling y'all what I know. I'll explain why and then some in a minute. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, Sirius XM, Mad Dog Sports Radio, Channel 82. 888 Mad Dog 6 is the number to call up. It's 888-623-3646. Your calls and more NFL stuff and some boxing in a minute. Don't go away. Again, it's the Stephen A. Smith Show on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Holla.
Back to the Stephen A. Smith Show.
In college football, South Florida pulled off a huge upset over Florida. In the NFL, Josh Allen led the Bills to an improbable comeback win over the Ravens. And in fantasy, the Ravens duo of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry led fantasy football managers to week 1 victories. We are talking football right now on NFL Radio, Channel 88, and Mad Dog Sports Radio, Channel 82. College Sports Radio has college football covered on Channel 84, and the Fantasy Football Talk is on Fantasy Sports Radio, Channel 87. Or listen on the Sirius XM app. Back to the calls in a second at 888 Mad Dog 6. That's 888-623-3646. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, Sirius XM, Mad Dog Sports Radio. Let me say this. Ladies and gentlemen, in the world of sports, you watch the games. And if you know anything about the games, when you watch, you have an idea of what you're seeing. Aside from having no idea of what you're seeing, you also listen to commentary, you read articles, you do all of this stuff. And if you're somebody that's in the business like I am, you have researchers. And they give you all of this information. So there's always a boatload of information to defer to anytime you want to. In my case, I also pay attention to these two eyes that I have with 20/20 vision. And when I see stuff, I kind of know. And let me tell you what I noticed watching the Giants look impotent offensively against the Washington Commanders yesterday afternoon and losing the way that they did. What I saw in watching them is a guy in Malik Neighbors who looked at the New York Giants, his own team, and said, we ain't worth a damn. That's what his body language showed. We ain't worth a damn. Because you see, they know they don't have a quarterback. Now, that's not to disrespect Russell Wilson. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's been to back-to-back Super Bowls. Not many people are going to forgive Pete Carroll and Darrell Bevell and himself, meaning Russell Wilson, for throwing that interception at the half-yard line against the New England Patriots when all you needed to do was give the ball to beast mode. Marshawn Lynch, that's true. But in the end, what it comes down to is this. Russell Wilson, who had some good games for the Pittsburgh Steelers last year before nosediving over the last 5 weeks of the season and then losing in the playoffs to the Baltimore Ravens, we just looked at him. And the Steelers obviously felt they needed to go in a different direction. The Giants wanted some veteran leadership. We get that part. We also know their offensive line sucks. They don't have an offensive line. They can't protect their quarterback. They can't run block. All of those things are true. Evidenced by Russell Wilson being your leading rusher with 44 yards. Okay? All of that's true. Brian Daboll can coach. Okay? He really, really can. But he needs help. He doesn't have it. And contrary to what I know they're going to do, Brian Daboll has something different to say about his quarterback situation right now. Listen to what he had to say. Check this out.
Is it safe to say that Russell is still your starter?
Yes. I mean, we're just right here after the game. I got confidence. We got to do better around overall. Coaches, players, around everybody. So, we'll get focused and ready to go on Dallas. Go ahead,
Brian. In fairness, you're not answering this. It sounds like you're not answering.
Well, we're talking about after every game. I got confidence in Russ. So we're going to go back. We'll evaluate the tape. This game isn't on Russell Wilson. It's not on Russell Wilson. I'm going to make that clear. So I have confidence in Russ. We got to do a better job all the way around.
What else is he supposed to say? He's not making this decision. Joe Schoen, the GM for the New York Giants. Mr. Hard Knocks, especially when it came to Saquon Barkley. That dude. He's running the show. What is Brian Daboll supposed to say? He's a coach of the year. He's somebody that helped develop Josh Allen into what he has clearly become as a reigning league MVP and a superstar in this league. But Brian Daboll knows what we all know. That guy right there, Joe Schoen, the general manager for the New York Giants, it's his call. And so he's going to say stick with Russell Wilson. And I can't blame him or them in this regard. You don't want to take somebody like Jaxson Dart and throw him to the wolves because you know you can't protect him because your offensive line just ain't good enough to do it. So that makes sense. But here's why you have to put him in early anyway. Because Brian Daboll's job is on the line. And so in all likelihood is Joe Schoen. And what you don't want to do is hesitate and procrastinate and put yourself in a position where you end up losing your job because you're sticking to Russell Wilson. You don't want to do that if you're them. If you want to go down, you want to go down swinging, which means you roll the dice and you take your chances with this rookie who was clearly very impressive in preseason, so much so that he's the QB2 on this squad, not Jameis Winston. That's what you want to do. Because when you see Jaxson Dart and the way the team appeared energized in the preseason, when you got a cat like Neighbors who is just a baller, you cannot ask him to go out there every week and be enthusiastic about playing for a team he knows sucks. You can't do that to him. You got to give him a chance. His body language told you all you needed to see. We ain't worth a damn. Giants going to be 0-2 after this upcoming week. And once that happens, if you want to try to salvage not just your season, but your career as a head coach, your career as a general manager, you better put Jaxson Dart in that game. Not this coming week, but I'm talking about week 3. You better get him ready. And you better roll the dice and do something. Because if the Giants season is over before it even begins, you ain't going to have much to look forward to. And by the way, speaking of the New York Giants, the so-called gold standard once upon a time, do y'all know that since the Giants beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl in 2011, the Giants is arguably the worst franchise in the entire National Football League? Did y'all know that? I mean, they're really bad. Even when people pointed to the Jacksonville Jaguars, I'll remind y'all they were in the AFC Championship game in 2017 against New England. Giants haven't sniffed at relevance since 2011. They haven't sniffed at it. So I just want to point that out. By the way, speaking of people that's on the line,